All right, everyone. Good morning. Let's call to order the Board of Franklin County Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, September 9th.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Howard?
Present.
Chair Waymeyer?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
All right, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance, and then that'll be followed by our invocation, led by Reverend Bruce Beatty of the Church of the Nazarene in Ottawa. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's for all.
All right. Go ahead, Reverend.
All right, thank you. Let's just bow our hearts and our heads for a word of prayer. Father, we give you praise for this day that you've given us, and we would just ask that you would help set everything in order of this day, that you would lead and guide and direct in all that we do. We give you praise for the cool weather, 90 degrees earlier this week, and now we're down to 60s. A little brisk and cool outside for a lot of us, but we just thank you for the change of seasons that we have. Would ask for your continued guidance and protection and our battle against this COVID-19. It affects many of us in many different ways. And Lord, we would just ask that you would be with those that are trying to discover a vaccine, and that you would lead in that direction to help one get here as soon as possible, but help each of us to do our part in order to keep ourselves and the rest of our county safe. Schools have gotten back into session. Well, you would ask that you would keep your hand upon them, and that you would be with that transition from being out of school for almost 6 months or so. Would ask that you would be with our nation, with all the unrest that is happening across our nation, with all the violence and the protests. We would just ask that you would help all that come together peacefully, and that decisions that need to be made can be made. Be with the electoral process that we got going. But ask for your guidance as we make a decision in these coming months of who our leaders and president will be. But ask that you would be with all our emergency and first responders, all law enforcement, that you would keep them safe this day. Be with all our county employees in whatever capacity they serve. But ask that you would just keep them safe and help them each to have a productive day. And as we come to this commission, we would ask for your leading upon them, that you would give them discernment and wisdom and cooperation in the decisions they need to make this day as they work through the agenda and the needs and the process of today. Lead, guide, and direct, and all that is done through the commission and all of us as citizens of this county. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go to correspondence and organizational business. Derek, have anything?
No, sir.
All right. Jana, do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
All right, then on the consent agenda, which would include tax change orders in the amount of a negative $9,498.44, and meeting minutes from September 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Commissioner Dunn.
Commissioner Howard.
Approve.
All right.
Commissioner Howard, second.
Perfect.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, down to items of business, the first of which would be to discuss and consider making an additional donation of $14,600 to the Franklin County Meals on Wheels program.
Yes. This is Derek. You'll recall back in 2020, Elizabeth Maxwell with the East Central Kansas Area Agency on Aging appeared in front of you and gave a presentation on the Meals on Wheels program and Franklin County's use of that program. She demonstrated that Franklin County's use of the program far outweighed its contribution to the program. And she had gotten some feedback from other counties that they weren't going to increase their donation because the counties, Franklin counties, lagged so far behind. And so at that time, she recommended an additional $24,600. Because we had already set the budget, I did not recommend to the board that we give a full extra 25 grand that wasn't budgeted, but I thought to be safe, we could do 10 at the time as kind of a good faith gesture to show her that we do want to be a good partner, and told her to come back, 6 months or so later, and we'll talk about the rest. And that is the purpose of this item. She reached out to me to do that, requesting the additional $14,600. And talking with Janet, the revenue is there. Our sales tax numbers are really good. And so I can, from a financial perspective, I feel like we do have the ability to do this. I think, you all have demonstrated on other occasions that you see the value of this program. Obviously, it puts food and sustenance in people's mouths. I mean, obviously, that's incredibly important. And so I do have Elizabeth on the call, or at least I believe she's on the call. Elizabeth, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I'll let you talk a little bit now.
Okay, I just, I'll reiterate what's already been said, but I've been looking at the numbers just to make sure that we're still serving the volume of meals in Franklin County that we had intended and that we based our fair share on last February. And we do. We based yours on 27.4% of the meals being served in Franklin County. And I checked at the end of July, which is the last that I've tallied yet, and you're serving 27.9% of all the meals. So you're right on track for what you generally serve in Franklin County. So again, I'll just piggyback on what Derek said. I've asked every county to put in their fair share. 5 of the counties out of my 6 have done this so far. So you're my 6th county. So I am requesting that you give the additional $14,600 to be right on track to finish out our year.
This is Derek. I would add, and I put this on the cover sheet, but you'll recall that we built this full amount into our 2021 budget. So in other words, we did increase our contribution in 21 by the full $24,600. So you've already agreed to do it next year. The revenues are there to do it as well this year. So it would be my recommendation that we go ahead and make this additional $14,600 donation. But obviously, I would stand for any questions you have, and I'm sure Elizabeth would as well. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Dickinson.
This Commissioner. Oh,
Go ahead, Diane.
I was going to say, this is Commissioner Dickinson. I don't have a question, but I 100% believe in this program. I've been delivering meals for many, 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 many years, and we'll be doing it again this afternoon. So yes, 100% support this program.
All right, Roy.
This Commissioner Dunn. Elizabeth came to me. I sit on the board of the Area Agency on Aging. Elizabeth came to me probably about 2 years now and showed me the numbers, and I was really surprised that Franklin County was lagging so far behind, and I recommended her that she needs to contact Derek and show him the numbers and see if we can't get up to paying our share of the program. And she's done a very good job in the time of the COVID-19 epidemic we're going through now, of continuing to serve the older age citizens of our county. And all the other counties that area agency on aging serves. So I recommend that we support her as much as we can, like we're contemplating doing today. And if nobody else has any more questions, I'll make a motion to approve the 14,000 plus for area agency on aging.
All right, doesn't sound like anyone else is going to jump in, so with that, look for a second.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our second item of business is to consider purchasing the lowboy equipment hauling trailer that we've talked about previously for the Public Works Department. And David, go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, I think it was a couple of weeks ago that I brought this before you to discuss getting bids to replace our 25-year-old 110-ton lowboy trailer. At that time, the Commission approved going ahead with bids. We have done that. We looked at, we got 4 different bids, and the Load King Signature Series lowboy trailer was the lowest and best bid. There was a price for an 80,000 pound trailer that was lower. However, the 110,000 pound trailer is heavy enough to carry whatever piece of equipment that we have without any issues. And so staff would like to go ahead with the larger trailer and approve the Load King lowboy trailer.
All right. Well, pretty straightforward, and we've discussed it before. So unless anybody jumps in to ask any questions, and ask if there's a motion to approve purchasing the lowboy equipment hauling trailer.
This is Commissioner Howard. We did have this. You had this budgeted, didn't you, David?
Yes, sir. We had roughly $90,000 budgeted. I believe it was in last year's budget also, but we elected to let it ride one more year. But the time is now to get this replaced, and we do have the money set aside for it.
Okay, that's all I had. I heard Roy. If Roy didn't have a question, I'd be willing to make the motion. But
All right.
This Commissioner Dunn, I just want to know again what we're going to do with the old trailer.
We will put that out on Purple Wave or one of the auction sites, and you know, I think it would be probably ideal for a farmer that is going to be moving equipment maybe from one field to the other. But as far as the over-the-road days, that trailer is past its prime, let's say.
Okay, thank you, David.
All right. So Commissioner Howard, believe made the motion. Is that correct?
yes.
I'll second it, Commissioner Dunn.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Third item of business is to consider executing an agreement for our annual fracture critical bridge inspection. That's Flat Strobel Engineers.
Okay, Commissioners, we are required to have our fracture critical bridges inspected every year by, this is something that we have to do to remain in compliance with KDOT. And last year we had all of the bridges inspected, so the fracture critical bridges were included in that group. But this year, we have 2 remaining fracture critical bridges that need to be inspected. And we have a proposal from CFS Engineers. CFS has historically done all of our bridge inspections, and they've been a great partner to the county. And we would like to move forward with their proposal for $5,000 to inspect those 2 bridges. I've included their proposal in the documentation, and so you can see that there's quite a little bit of work involved with inspecting these bridges, and that's the reason for the cost of $5,000.
If there's no questions for David, would anyone like to make a motion to authorize the chairman to execute the agreement with CFS Engineers for the fracture critical bridge inspection in the amount of $5,000?
This is Don. I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second it.
Commissioner Dunn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. That brings us to our 4th item of business, which is to consider awarding the financing for that Caterpillar 140 M3 motor grader we purchased.
Okay, Commissioners, we, as standard practice, whenever we purchase a new motor grader or really any very large piece of equipment, we try to go out for financing on these. We contact all of the local banks, soliciting, trying to get them to submit bids for this. For this set of bids, we received two bids from Kansas State Bank and Patriots Bank. The interest rate from both of these institutions was very, very good, and again was within just a few percentage points of each other. But the lowest and best bid was submitted by Patriots Bank at 1.35%, which is just under $8,000 in total interest over the life of that loan. And so we'll have a total payment of just under $212,000 for the new motor grader, and we would recommend going with Patriots Bank for this loan.
All right. Getting awful competitive on the rates, aren't they?
They're amazing. I hope they stay like this.
All right. We would like to make a motion to award the financing for the motor grader to Patriots Bank in the amount of $211,958.96.
Commissioner Howard, I'll make the motion.
All righty.
Mr. Dunn, second.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our
Thank
fifth
you,
item.
Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, David. Fifth item of business is another round of neighborhood revitalizations properties for approval. Before we get started, I'll say one of the properties on there is in a LLC I own, so I'm going to abstain from this and turn it over to Janet.
Thank you, Chair Waymeyer. So as we had last week, we have another round of neighborhood revitalization projects for approval. Charlotte Newkirk from the city and I are working really hard to get all of these cleaned up, as you know, with different offices working remotely and stuff. Some of these have kind of slipped through the cracks. They were reviewed by the committee that reviews these much earlier in the year, and they just failed to get approved. So I have one group that is on your agenda that's actually from way back in February, which does not affect their rebate at all. Actually, they have to be approved, and then they can't be entered into the program until the next year after they're completed. So sometimes from the time that they actually apply till the time that they're placed in the program could be 2 years or longer, depending on how extensive the project is that they're working on. So we have 2 groups there before you on your agenda, and one is from February and the other one is a more recent, and they represent a large number of properties, again, like we did last week. So they've all been reviewed by the committee, and as soon as the projects are complete and meet all the criteria, they be ready to be entered into the program. Does anyone have any questions about that?
This commissioner, down one question.
Yep.
Is it possible that these properties that have already been rehabilitated before entering into the program?
They have to be complete before they're entered into the program. I think maybe you're asking, like, because they were approved in February, maybe are they already complete?
Yes, and yes, that still meets the criteria.
Yes, it's possible. So there are certain steps that have to happen. So it has to be approved by the committee. Then they have to be approved by each governing body of the Franklin County Commissioners, the Ottawa City Commissioners, and the USD 290 School Board. And so then, as I was saying, they can't be entered into the program until the following year after they've been issued a certificate of occupancy. So if they were approved by the Neighborhood Revitalization Committee in February, and they were issued a certificate of occupancy within that same year, so say within 2020, they wouldn't be able to be eligible for their tax rebate until the 2021 year, which would go on the books at the beginning of next year, and then their tax statement be issued in November of 2021.
Okay, I think that answered my question.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Dunn, nobody else has any questions. I think this is a great program, and I'll make a motion to approve all these projects.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
I'll abstain. All right. Thanks, Janet. Our next item of business is rezoning application. And Larry, are you on the line? Can you hear me, Larry?
I can hear him talking down the hall. Let me go check on him.
All right. Worst case, maybe you guys could swap computers there.
He was on, now he went off.
Yeah.
Have him get on, David.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking, Don.
He'll be right here.
Okay, no worries.
You're good. You can talk right now.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Sure can. Good morning, Larry.
The first item that I have that I'm concerned with this morning is the rezoning for Mr. Irely. This is kind of a unique rezoning request because the zoning today is commercial. This property is located at the corner of Nebraska Terrace and 68 Highway on the northwest corner of that intersection. There was an existing old duplex that historically has been used from time to time for residential purposes. But in more recent years, there's been a variety of different activities, some of them commercial, some of them kind of a mixed use. But They want to rehab that facility to use it exclusively for residential purposes. We do not allow residential uses in the commercial zones, so that's the purpose for the rezoning. The Planning Commission entertained this at their meeting in August. They have forwarded a recommendation to you for the approval to rezone this property from the C2 highway commercial to the R3A single-family residential zoning district. I would have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions. It's basically to satisfy the requirements to allow for the reconstruction and rehab of that existing residential structure that's been used for a variety of uses.
All right, and is the mini storage building still there?
That's on a separate piece of property. That's located to the west. There is a garage structure just west of the existing house, but the mini storage is on a separate piece of property located further to the west.
Okay. Questions for Larry? All right. We would like to make a motion to approve rezoning application to rezone approximately 3 acres from C2 Highway Commercial Zoning District to the R3A Single Family Residential 3-acre lot and zoning district, and amend the official county zoning map. This is application 2006-1767.
Well, this is Commissioner Dunn. I'm familiar with this location, and it just needed a lot of help for a long period of time. So I'm glad to see it come up to be cleaned up and put back to a good purpose. So I'll make a motion to approve this rezoning application.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our next item of business is a special use permit for the operation of a campground facility. Go ahead, Larry.
As you've indicated, Mr. Chairman, this is a request for a special use permit approval for the operation of a campground facility. This campground is somewhat unique in that it's really just a family-oriented campground. It's been in operation for a few number of years without the benefit of a special use permit, but recently was brought to the attention of our office that there was some camping being done there, and it was apparent that they did not have the proper permits. We did have this matter considered by the Planning Commission at their meeting in August also, and after about an hour of testimony, the Planning Commission has forwarded a recommendation for the approval of this campground, subject to the findings and conditions that are in the draft resolutions that you have. There was one party, one of the surrounding properties that we gave notice to that did have some objection. And one of their major concerns was that they have a series of oil tanks that are in fairly close proximity. However, it would be very difficult to reach those because of the vegetation, which is primarily cedar trees, between the campground and the location of that oil storage battery. That was the biggest issue that seemed to take a lot of time, but otherwise, the Planning Commission felt that it did satisfy the requirements that are provided in our zoning regulations for a campground facility, and I forwarded a recommendation to you for the approval, as I indicated, subject to the conditions and findings that are in the draft resolution.
this is Commissioner Stottlemyre. I know the property, it's been used for this for years and years and years. But I'm pretty sure, like Larry said, that it's always been a family-oriented deal with a lock gate. And in fact, I just by there the other day. And it's just families come down, a few families from Kansas City or somewhere, and they bring their families down there and they have a little fire and park their camper for the weekend. And so it's nothing new starting up. It's been there forever. So I do know the property.
All right. If there are no other questions or comments, would someone like to make a motion to approve the special use permit application 2006-1768 to permit the operation of a campground facility in an A2 transitional agriculture zoning district based on the findings and subject to the 5 conditions cited in the attached resolution?
Commissioner Howard, I'll make the motion.
All right, is there a second?
Stottlemyre, I'll second it.
All righty. Thank you, Don.
Commissioner Dunn, how do you vote?
And consistent with how I voted on these people that come down and start a commercial enterprise without getting the right permits to start with, I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. All right. Our 8th item of business is to consider approving amendments to the county zoning regulations to include a definition for distillery and distilleries, and to amend the C2 highway commercial zoning district to include the use of distilleries based on the findings cited in the attached resolutions. Larry?
As you've indicated, Mr. Chairman, this will be an amendment to the current zoning regulations. You perhaps recall this matter was discussed by the county commissioners a couple months ago when we were first contacted by a local business that they would like to move their business to a new location. They're currently located here in the city of Ottawa, and they would like to move out to a commercial zoning district that's located in the county at Highway, I-35 and Tennessee Road. It's a piece of commercial land that's been used for a variety of things over the years, but hasn't had much in the way of any activity in the recent years. This would be, I think, a reasonable use of the property, but unfortunately, at the time that they were discussing this with the staff, we found that we didn't have provisions for distilleries in any of our zoning districts here in Franklin County. And with that, we went to the county commissioners seeking the request to approve authorizing us to advertise a hearing to be heard by the Planning Commission to consider amending our regulations to add a definition for distilleries, and also to make a provision for the distilleries in the commercial zoning district. After reviewing the provisions of what is permitted with the distilleries as far as the state licensing requirements are concerned, we found that one size doesn't fit in every situation, and the best way to handle this would be through the special use permit provision, whether it be an activity that's using or producing 5,000 barrels a year or 50,000. There's going to be a big difference in some of the conditions and the number of people and all the other things that are associated with a much larger activity. So the Planning Commission agreed that this would be the most appropriate way to handle the consideration of future facilities if they desire to locate here in Franklin County. And with that, they have forwarded a recommendation to the county commissioners to amend our regulations, adding the distillery in the definition section, and also adding then in Article 2 of our provisions for the commercial zoning district, the highway commercial zoning, the provisions for a special use permit to approve the distillery operations. Again, we feel that this is an appropriate use of the property. It's a destination-oriented type business. We feel that it does comply with the county comprehensive plan and its goals and policies of that plan, and recommend that you accept the Planning Commission's recommendation. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have further questions.
This is Don. I'd just like to say, I think Larry has done a good job on this. It's just one of these things we've ran into over the years. It's even my time on the planning board that there's just some things you never figured on. You can't think of everything. And this was the first time this has ever came up. So, and they are a viable partner in the community, already have been for years. So that's what really pushed the notion forward. We need not only help the industry, but help a local business that wants to expand and get bigger. So that's all I got to say.
This is Commissioner Dunn. I agree with what Commissioner Stottlemyre said, and I really appreciate the way these gentlemen came to us and presented what they wanted to do before anything happened. That's the way I like our zoning and planning to work in this county, and I agree with Don that this will be a great addition to our county, and also, like he said, over time we come up with different new industries that need to be part of our planning and zoning and rules and regulations. So I'm in support of this going through here.
Diana or Rick, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Like said, when they came and talked to us, it's a business we don't want to lose, and I'm also support this.
And I agree. This is Commissioner Dickinson. I agree. I think we're just kind of going backwards on it. You know, we approved the distillery, and now we're approving the where it goes into, and so but now we'll have it in case it comes up again. So we're all good. I'm good.
All right. So the proposed action in front of us is to make a motion to approve the amendments to the county zoning regulations, amending Articles 2, Sections 2-1.01 to include the definition for distilleries, and amending Article 4, Section 11-2.01 to include distilleries as a special use subject to the approval of a special use permit. Is there a motion to that effect?
Commissioner Howard, I'll make it.
Or I'll second.
Thanks, Don.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Now to staff reports. Derek.
All right. Continue to spend the vast majority of my time on the county's COVID-19 response, doing many of the same things I've been doing for months. I feel like I spent a large amount of time on the phone with each of you there last week, just as we've had, various issues emerge with our COVID-19 response. And so my time continues to get spent largely the same way. We are still working through our CARES Act funding allocation, Janet and I continue to work with our consultant. We have a meeting with them scheduled for tomorrow. Interestingly, we just learned this morning that a bill has been proposed to extend the date by which those funds need to be expended, which frankly is something that I speculated was going to happen, and we'll see if it passes. But the proposal would, instead of requiring that the funds be spent by the end of the year, would kick that to September of 21, which would make a ton more sense, because we don't believe that COVID is just going to stop in December of this year. And so hopefully that bill gets some traction. That will give not only Franklin County, but also the cities and school districts a little more room to breathe and maybe make a little more deliberate use of those funds, as opposed to just trying to get them allocated and spent. We have been, if you've been out by the annex, obviously you've seen our trailer out there, and you may have seen a tent, just a tiny tent getting moved around. That is actually Advent Health. We are working with them on the appropriate place for them to test their, or to screen their COVID patients. And earlier this week, we made the determination that we would move their tent kind of back to the south part of that lot, adjacent to our trailer. Our hope is that eventually they will take advantage of our trailer, just like OFP is. I know that their staff really would like to do that. We've actually done that on a limited basis, and it worked great. But Advent's corporate office got involved, and apparently there's some type of compliance issue. So staff here at the local office are supposed to be working with them on an agreement that would placate their compliance concerns and allow both Advent and OFP, as well as health department staff, to utilize that trailer. That would make a ton of sense. It would cut down on public confusion, and most importantly, it will keep COVID positives out of the annex. I mean, that is really the goal of all of this. We would like to do all of our testing outdoors and keep as many infected or potentially infected patients out of that building as possible. And so we've been working hard on that and trying to facilitate that in the most common sense way possible. Finally, we have been working through the remodel process. Brandon's done a great job on that. We've had a site visit recently, and we had a very, frankly, I thought it was a very nice number of interested contractors out to look at the project. So I'm confident that we'll get a number of hopefully competitive bids. Been working with my staff, including Sari, Nick, Brandon, and Casey, on just finishing in there, carpets, wall colors, trim, countertops. And so that's moving along. Obviously, this is all going to be subject to the board's approval, and we'll be back in front of you when we've got some bids. But that's where we're at in that process. And unless you have any questions for me, I can turn it over to Nick. Thank you.
This is Nick. Good morning, Commission. I've got quite a few things to kind of report out to you involving COVID and our response and the partners we're working with. I'll start with the nursing facilities. As you know, we've been working hand in hand with the nursing facilities from day one. We really ramped that up to about a weekly call with them to talk about how they were going to handle the reopening processes. And I feel they've done a good job on that. They're still monitoring, they're still doing a good job. On that call, a lot of the things we discussed are the personal protective equipment for them, the needs that they might have, and allow them the opportunity to conversate with their fellow nursing facilities to make sure we're all on the same page. And that's the goal we've had. And with that, all of them have been very confident that they have enough equipment to get through. We have been able to give them different vendors that they might be able to purchase from, and they've also shared those with each other. So I think it's been a good partnership with those nursing facilities. By saying that, they have gotten tasked with testing all of their employees. CMS put out a mandate that they have to routinely test the employees of the nursing facilities. The test that those nursing facilities were given was a antigen test. As we talk about this, remember gold standard testing is a nasal swab test that is ran through the state. So these tests are a card that you swab the nose, you put some solution on it, and it basically works the same way as a pregnancy test. You get a line if it's positive and 2 lines if it's not. So with those, there's a margin of error. There's about an 86% true positive rate, and then you've got an 84%. Then you have a 16% false positive. One of our nursing facilities started testing last week. They did have 4 that popped up as positive. After sending them through the state, they came back negative, showing that we did see some false positives out of that nursing facility with this test. I tell you this just to assure you we are working hand in hand with those facilities. The state will not accept a positive antigen test without it followed up with a test through them. So as you hear these things unfold, I will tell you we've got 3 facilities testing this week. We're staying in communication with them also. So that has been a mandate that came from CMS that we've been monitoring closely. With that, I'll move on to the next project we've been working on, and that's the schools. And I do want to give a shout out. They're doing a good job on protecting the students, protecting what we can to keep them in school. I have watched some ball games on Facebook where they've been putting them out and showing them. I think our schools are doing better than a lot of the surrounding schools. I was very impressed with the way the volleyball teams are not, when they huddle, they're still maintaining some distance. When they're on the bleachers, they're putting masks on, and I see a lot of surrounding schools not doing that. So I strongly feel that they're doing what they need to do. With that, we have had to suspend one school's volleyball team for a short period of time. We got the testing done, was able to get them back to practicing, and it worked very well. So I do appreciate the superintendents, the athletic directors, and the teachers for what they're doing there. With that, we kind of have seen over the weekend, we did have a few positives come in. The state was at minimal staffing throughout the holiday weekend, so we were slow getting some results back. We did have some results that were messed up from different counties coming here. One of the things that confuses, I guess, EpiTrax or how they put it in the system, we do have places like Quinamo that has a few addresses in Franklin County. Baldwin City has a few addresses in Franklin County. And with those, if we have somebody in that area, we've got to go tracing those results to get them. We don't always get those sent to us. So that's been something we've been working with, trying to make sure we're getting all the information we can and follow up with those. We did take delivery of our trailer we ordered that's going to be utilized for outreach testing. Plus, it'll also be utilized for outreach drive-through shot clinics. One of the things we've seen with the flu season is we'll be starting to ramp that up within the next couple of weeks for flu shots. But we can't use the community buildings like they've done in the past. We have to come up with a different idea of how we're going to give these flu shots and what that's going to look like. And one of the things we've done is, so by utilizing a trailer out here, we figured out how to do drive-throughs pretty well. And we will be setting up drive-through flu vaccine clinics in the outlying communities as well as Franklin, as well as Ottawa. So those are things that are coming down the pipes at the health department with the shot clinics and stuff getting ready to start. Really with that, I take any questions you guys have or the commissioners have for me.
You must have covered it, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Let's go to Sheriff Richards. Jeff, are you on?
Yes, sir. Good morning. As we've talked in the past few weeks, our inmate count is back up to the pre-COVID numbers. We do have several that are farmed out at this point. We are still able to maintain our the way that we are isolating new inmates and keeping them segregated for the quarantine period before they go to the general population. But because of that, it does cause some, we have to do some juggling acts at times, and that has kind of increased the number of inmates that we've had to farm out as well. But we are still able to maintain our protocols and maintain the safety in there. One thing that we are dealing with is that the state has really changed the way that they are doing a lot of their intakes, and and they are reducing numbers as well. So what we have going on at this point is that if we have someone that is sentenced by the court to the Department of Corrections, the Department of Corrections is trying as much as they can to have inmates be maintained in county jails. We are experiencing that. They are paying us a per diem, a daily per diem for each of the DOC inmates, but they did reduce their rate from what they used to pay down to $40 a day. As you are all probably aware, it does. Our cost is about $80 a day to house an inmate, and the state is giving us $40. And one thing that we are also running into is that if we keep that DOC inmate, DOC also is not covering any medical expenses. So those are also on the county while they are here serving out their DOC time. So had Lieutenant Lasswell reach out to DOC and see what we can do, because if we end up with some inmates that are going to be causing us quite a bit of a budget hit because of medical expenses, seeing what we can do to make sure that those inmates do not serve their DOC time here, and that they do go on to the state and into the prison system where they can get that taken care of on the state's dime, since they are their inmates. So those are some things that we're dealing with right now. It's not unique to Franklin County. Other counties are going through the same thing. And it's just kind of one of the hazards that we're dealing with at this point. So we're working through it. If it ends up getting to a thing where we need a little bit more political influence or things, I may be reaching out to the commission to try to see what you guys can do from your angle as well. But that's kind of where we are with inmates. So other than that, if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. David Lee.
Okay, Commissioners. The Haskell Road low water crossing is open to the public as of last night. We are still doing a little bit of work out there. We've got to pour a head wall on one area, and we've got to reshape the ditches coming into the low water crossing. but overall, the project is about wrapped up, and I think it will serve us well for many years to come. The guys did a great job on it. The Iowa Terrace project is supposed to get underway tomorrow. When the pipe is delivered, the contractor has been in touch with us and kept us up to date on what their status is. So as soon as the pipe arrives, they're going to get started in earnest and get that project knocked out. Excuse me. We are starting to pull shoulders on Old 50. That's going to take about half of our staff to do that project, and then the work will take a couple of days, but we try to do this at least once a year to shape up the shoulders, get the potholes, get the drop off on the edge of Old 50 taken care of, so that should be a better situation. Let's see, also the field check plans for the Virginia Road project just north of Lane were delivered to me sometime in the last week. What we're doing now is waiting on KDOT to review those field check plans and set a meeting date where they will, where we will actually meet on site and walk the project and make any additions or changes that need to be made at that point. So that project is moving right along. And then if you recall, some time ago I mentioned that we're going to have a traffic study done on Shawnee Road between K33 and Wyoming. We had a citizen contact us about the speed of the traffic through that area. The report is finally done. That was delivered late yesterday afternoon, so I'm going to be reviewing that information, and I'll discuss recommendations with Derek in the next few days, and then we'll probably be bringing that before you for possible action. And that's all that I have right at this point.
David, when's the last time we worked the Old 59 shoulders?
It was probably about this time last year.
Okay. Is that on the to-do list as well?
Oh, you mean Old 59?
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. I think we did that last year, but I'll have to check with the guys to see that if that's on their radar.
All right. Any questions for David?
This is Commissioner Howard. I don't really have a question. The road, of course, we all know that Old 50 is in pretty rough shape, but west of Williamsburg, it's really breaking away on the sides. I don't know I know pulling the shoulders will help, but I'm not sure what the answer is for that. The only other thing, David, I did go out and look at the bridge on Colorado Road that they opened up last week, I believe it was, and yeah, the service on that really looks good.
Yes.
I'll be curious to see how it holds up where they tied the road back to the bridge with the asphalt and see how the asphalt holds up. But the surface is really looks good.
That what we have there as far as the asphalt is just a temporary fix. Our plan is whenever Kilo gets started with the patching job, we're going to include reworking those approaches to that bridge with their laydown equipment. They'll be able to mill that out and make it a smoother transition into the new bridge deck. But we needed something to get us by, and so we blade patched that. It's okay. It's not great, but definitely once Kilo gets done, we should have that bridge should perform well. We're hoping for years to come. And if that product proves to perform well, we've got several other bridges that we're going to look at doing something similar to.
It looks good anyway.
Yes, it does. It drives nice also.
Yep.
All right. Janet?
Okay, so next week we are going to be getting our ballots programmed. We've had a lot of questions about that. Various different states are on different schedules for their elections, but Kansas, we won't start sending out those ballots in the mail to regular voters until October 14th. So a lot of people have reached out to us with concerns because they're getting numerous advanced ballot forms in the mail and they're confused whether that's a ballot or that's not a ballot, like if they need to fill that out, if they're going to have to vote by mail. And the answer to that is you do not have to vote by mail. There are these outside organizations that are sending out these ballot request forms. You are not under any circumstances required to fill one out. So if you want to vote by mail, you certainly can. We will have a lot of early voting hours. We'll start doing that on October 14th also, which is the day we'll mail out all the advanced ballots that we have at that point. And that is earlier than we normally would start. So we'll be early voting from October 14th all the way up to the day prior to Election Day. We also have 3 Saturdays that we'll be voting early from 9 to 1. And then we have some additional evening hours that I'll be working with Casey to get out as the time gets closer. The only ballots that we send out prior to October 14th are the federal ballots for military and overseas citizens. The federal law requires that we send those out on September 19th. So we do have a number of those, and we will get those out in September right after we get the ballots programmed. So lots going on in here for the planning of getting everything ready for early voting, and a lot of advanced ballot applications that we've already received. But I just reiterate that if you get questions from anyone about advanced ballot forms, just have them contact my office. We can double check and see if they've already submitted an advanced ballot form, because they do not need to submit more than one. And you will not get more than one ballot if you submit more than one application. So we double check all of those, and we only send out one ballot, and our system only lets us send out one ballot. There's no way that you could accidentally get more than one. So
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I just have a census question. Do you know what our current numbers are? Are they going up at all?
So I got an email yesterday that said that Kansas overall is at 95%, which is higher than the average. So that's really good, but we still got to work to finish getting these last little bit finished up. And I did get a response from Steve, our census rep, on your question from last week. And he said that they have reached out to all the colleges to verify the numbers that they had that were living there in campus housing, whether that be dorms or Greek houses or anything additional like that. And they have counts from them that they're using to make sure that they've accounted for students that would normally have been on campus at that time, and they're cross-checking those against other census records that they have so they can make sure the counts are accurate. So they said it's a really difficult census this time just because of the coronavirus, but they're working really hard to make sure that we do get credit for those students that should have been in college at that time.
Thank you. That's good, because that could make a big difference in our census. So that's a good report.
This is Don.
Yes.
Hey, I seen a deal in Miami County. Have we received anything from K-Work or K-Camp for their virtual meeting? I believe it's on October the 14th. I seen over there where they voted. Evidently, they must have got something, somebody did, because they voted on their delegates and their alternates to attend that virtual meeting.
Usually that goes down to the administration office and they send it down to me. So I have not seen it, but I will look around for it, see if I can find it. If I can't, I'll reach out to them and get those forms so we can get that done.
I say I don't recognize I know all the numbers because it's just things I read. It wasn't anybody I talked to. So Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Janet. And we'll move down to commissioners' comments and board reports. Commissioner Howard?
No, I don't have anything at this time.
All right. Commissioner Dunn?
I don't have anything at this time.
Commissioner Dickinson?
I just have, please wear your mask and fill out your census, and that's it.
All right. Commissioner Stottlemyre?
I have several virtual meetings coming up, but nothing at the time.
All right. Nor do I. Our next meeting is Wednesday, a week from today. Derek, anything you need to add before we look to adjourn?
No, sir.
All right. With that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Commissioner
adjourn.
Howard, make the motion. I'll
Second.
second it.
All right. And Don seconded it. So with that, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.